Commander Eli Vance stood near the viewing glass of the star cruiser Seraphim, his arms crossed behind his back, staring into the void. Stars drifted slowly past like glowing dust. The silence of space made him think of Earth, of oceans, of wind. Things the stars didn't have. Behind him, the Matari star system glowed like a pale sapphire. Their capital planet, Valerian, was a place of peace talks and old politics. Humans had been invited to observe a treaty, their first real step into galactic diplomacy. But Eli wasn't just here to watch. He was here to change everything. The doors behind him slid open with a soft hum. A female voice followed, smooth, cool, and musical with just enough steel beneath it. "You must be the human." Eli turned. The speaker stood tall and still. She wore a flowing blue and silver robe, and her skin shimmered faintly under the light. Her eyes were a strange, glowing violet. She didn't walk. She glided like she belonged to gravity more than it belonged. To her, Commander Eli Vance, he said with a polite nod. "Ambassador for the Terran Coalition? And you must be Lyrathal, daughter of Queen Soraya, rightful heir of the Matari Dominion," she finished for him. "I lead this summit." Eli smiled slightly. "And here I thought the summit was being led by the Council." Lyra's face didn't change, but her eyes narrowed the smallest bit. "You're bold for a species still crawling from its cradle." Eli stepped forward, unafraid. "It's kind of what we do best." A moment of silence stretched between them. Then, to his surprise, the corner of her mouth twitched. "Interesting," she said. "Maybe you will survive here after all." Summit was held in Arraeo's Spire, a city floating above Valerian's clouds. Transparent walkways connected sleek, glass towers shaped like crystal flowers. Species from across the galaxy walked together, tall lizards in breathing suits, floating cephalopods, humanoids with bark-like skin and golden eyes. Humans were the newcomers. Most of the others viewed Earth as young, emotional, and unstable. Eli didn't care. He had a job. Build trust, earn respect, show that humans could be allies. But on the second day of talks, everything changed. The explosion happened without warning. Eli was standing near a garden platform, trying not to offend a bird-faced diplomat with his questions about galactic farming techniques, when the sky flashed white. A deep boom followed, shaking the platform. Alarms screamed across the spire. The bird diplomat shrieked and dropped his cup. Panic spread like wildfire. Then Eli heard a voice. Familiar, sharp guards. "Protect the princess." Eli turned fast. In the middle of the chaos, Lyra was being pulled away by armored Matari guards. But something was wrong. One of the guards wasn't moving like the others. He turned and raised a small device. A pulse weapon. Too slow. Lyra saw it. But there was no time to react. Eli ran. Without thinking, he tackled her to the floor as the weapon fired. The blast flew over their heads and struck a tree behind them. Turning it into ashdot, the fake guard aimed again, but Eli was already up. He lunged forward, grabbed the man's arm, and slammed him into the ground, with all the strength of Earth gravity and hand-to-hand combat training. A hard punch to the side knocked the weapon loose. Real guards swarmed in seconds later. The attacker was restrained. Eli stood, breathing hard, his shirt burned on one side. He looked at Lyra, who sat stunned, her violet eyes wide. "You saved me," she said softly. He helped her up, offering a lopsided grin. "Not exactly how I planned to. Make a good impression." Later, in a quiet room in the spire's central tower, Lyra stood in front of Eli. Her formal robe was gone. She wore a dark tunic now, more suited for warriors than diplomats. Her long silver hair was tied back. "I've reviewed the security footage," she said. "You acted with courage and instinct." "Instinct, yes," Eli said. "Courage? I was mostly hoping I wouldn't die." Lyra tilted her head. "You humans joke too often." "Only when we're scared," he replied. "Honestly. And always when we're trying to look cool." That brought a faint smile to her lips. Then, serious again, she stepped closer. "The man who attacked me was no ordinary rebel," she said. "He carried an ancient symbol on his chest, one used by a forgotten cult." We haven't seen it in centuries, Eli's brow furrowed. Why now? That's what worries me. She paused, then looked into his eyes. There is something else, Commander. Something I haven't told anyone. Eli raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Before the blast, when you grabbed me, I felt something. She hesitated. A pulse. A connection. Not just physical. Mental. Like, Eli asked. No. Like a memory that wasn't mine. A vision of light. Of someone who looked like you, but wasn't you. It felt ancient. Eli rubbed the back of his neck. You're saying I reminded you of someone? I'm saying, Lyra said slowly, you triggered something we thought was lost to time. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He sat in his temporary quarters, staring out at the stars again. Couldn't shake what Lyra had said. A memory? A vision? Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was the stress, the adrenaline. But part of him felt it too, like something in the galaxy had noticed him for the first time. And whatever it was, it had been waiting. He looked at the small token Lyra had left him, a stone-like pendant marked with Matari runes.
Oh.
Script older than most civilizations. He whispered the words she had taught him. The stone glowed briefly. Strange, curious, and somewhere outside among the stars, something shifted. The next morning, Eli stood in the ancient library of Valerian, surrounded by floating books, glowing crystals, and whispering voices that didn't come from mouths. The air felt alive, like the walls were listening. Princess Lyra had brought him here without much explanation. She simply said, "There's something you need to see." Now they stood together in front of a large circular door made of silver stone. Strange symbols pulsed on its surface. Eli didn't recognize any of them, but somehow they felt familiar. This place is older than the Matari Dominion itself, Lyra said quietly. Only the royal bloodline and one other may enter. Other? Eli asked. The outsider of the flame, she said, then glanced at him. A name from an old prophecy. Let me guess, Eli said, with a crooked smile. He looks like me. She didn't smile back this time.
Exactly.
Like you. Lyra touched the edge of the door, glowed and began to turn, slow and heavy. As it opened, warm golden light poured out from the room beyond, together. They stepped inside. The chamber inside was round, with walls lined in crystal and floating screens that showed moving stars. In the center stood a stone platform with an orb glowing above it. The air was thick, electric. This is a memory vault, Lyra said. It stores visions of the past, not just images, but feelings. If you touch the orb, you will see what the Matari once saw. Why me? I don't know, she admitted. When you saved me, something inside you triggered the vault's awakening. No Matari has done that in generations. Eli stepped forward, unsure. He raised his hand toward the orb, and the moment his fingers touched the light, his mind exploded. He saw a man, human but ancient, dressed in armor made of strange metal, stood beside a woman who looked like Lyra, but older, wiser. They held hands, standing before a star-shaped gateway. War raged around them. Fleets exploded in the sky. A giant shadow rose above a planet, and the man whispered something. I will return in fire or in peace. Then the vision ended. Eli staggered back, breath short, heart racing. Lyra caught him by the arm. What? Did you see? She asked quickly. A man like me? A woman like you? Thousands of years ago? He looked at her, eyes wide. They were bonded. Lovers maybe? Partners? There was a war. Lyra's face was unreadable. It is true, then. You're not just a visitor. You're part of the prophecy. He laughed once, bitter and confused. I'm just a guy from New Colorado with a pilot's license and some basic diplomacy training. She stepped closer. But you're more than that now. In the days that followed, the summit continued, but Eli and Lyra had changed. They spent more time together, not just as diplomat and princess, but as something more. They walked through the sky gardens, debated human history versus Matari legends, and shared stories of their childhoods. Eli talked about his sister. On Earth, the dog he lost as a kid, and the first time he flew a starship. Lyra spoke of her lonely training, the burden of royal duty, and her dreams of unity. She had never met anyone like Eli, someone who spoke freely, laughed without shame, didn't bow to her title. And then there was this strange connection between them. The way they seemed to feel each other's moods without speaking. When Eli was hurt during a sparring match, Lyra winced before he even called out. When she felt overwhelmed, he would appear beside her without being called. It scared them both. A little, but it also brought them closer. One night they stood at the edge of the floating city, looking down at the swirling clouds below. "Do you think this is real?" Eli asked softly. "This connection between us?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "I used to believe the old stories were just myths," she said. "Until you arrived, you think I'm some kind of chosen one?" She shook her head. "No, I think you're human, brave, honest, and connected to something bigger than either of us." He hesitated. "And if I said I don't want to be part of a prophecy, I would understand," she said gently. "But it may not matter what you want, Eli. The stars have chosen." He looked at her then, really looked. The way her silver hair danced in the wind, the way she stood tall even when uncertain. Something stirred inside him, but he didn't speak it yet. The peace talks took a dark turn 2 days later. A representative from the Jakar Alliance accused the Matari Dominion of preparing for war. They presented evidence, false transmissions, intercepted codes, and old battle plans. Lyra was shocked. The documents were forgeries, but detailed. Why someone had worked hard to frame her people. The council was thrown into chaos. Arguments filled the air. Fingers pointed. Old wounds reopened. Eli knew what was happening. Someone, some group, wanted the treaty to fail, and Lyra was the target. He followed her back to her quarters, where she stood by a shimmering mirror, her hands shaking for the first time. "They want me to fall," she whispered. "They want blood." "You're not alone in this," Eli said. She looked at him, vulnerable now. "Why do you care so much?" He stepped closer. "Because I trust you. And because, whatever this thing is between us, it's real. I feel it." She stared at him for a long moment. "Eli," before she could finish, the lights dimmed. A soft chime rang. Then a Matari guard burst in, eyes wide. "Your Highness," he said, "someone has hacked the Royal Archive." Lyra's face hardened. "You're going after the prophecy." They rushed to the archive chamber, a tall room of crystal memory pillars and starlight. The main console flickered. Someone had accessed the sealed records and downloaded data about the flame-bonded one. Eli scanned the console. "They're trying to expose me. Or discredit you." Lyra nodded. "If they reveal you're part of the prophecy, some will worship you. Others will want you destroyed." Eli took a deep breath. "Then maybe it's time we stop hiding." Lyra looked at him with fear and pride. "Are you sure?" "No," he said honestly. "But if someone is trying this hard to stop us, maybe we're on the right path." Later that night, Eli sat, alone, holding the glowing pendant again. The memory of the vision still haunted him. The man who looked like him, standing in fire, saying goodbye. He whispered the words again. "I don't want to be your hero," he said to the stars, "but I won't run from it either." Behind him, Lyra entered quietly. She said nothing at first, just stood near him. Then gently, she placed her hand over his. "You are not alone in this." He turned to her, and though neither of them said it aloud, the silence between them was filled with something deeper than words. The floating city of Orlis Prime was on edge. After the Royal Archive was hacked, rumors spread like wildfire. Some believed Eli was a chosen hero from the old prophecies. Others said he was a spy or worse, a tool sent to manipulate the Matari throne. Whispers filled the halls. Eyes followed him wherever he walked. Eli didn't care about titles. He just wanted the truth. But the truth was hard to find when lies were everywhere. Lyra kept calm on the outside, but Eli saw the pressure weighing on her. She had to hold her people together, defend her honor, and protect a peace that seemed ready to break at any moment, and now someone had declared war. The Jakar Alliance. one of the most powerful alien factions, accused the Matari Dominion of betrayal. They claimed Lyra had been preparing a secret army with human help. A full fleet of Xhakar ships surrounded Orlis Prime, demanding the surrender of the Matari leadership and the human ambassador Eli. If they attack, Lyra said, the council will collapse. All peace talks will end. The galaxy will burn. We can't let that happen, Eli said firmly. They were standing in the war chamber, a circular room with floating maps and real-time fleet displays. Dozens of leaders from different species argued across the table. Lyra stood tall. At the center, her voice strong. This is a lie. We have no secret army. We never planned for war. The Xhakar ambassador, a tall creature with metallic skin and glowing red eyes, pointed a clawed finger at her. We found human weapons on your moons. Ancient technology awakened by your so-called chosen one. Everyone looked at Eli. Eli took a step forward. I don't know what you found, but I had nothing to do with it. I came here for peace. A second ambassador sneered. Peace is a mask. Behind it is always power. The room exploded into shouting. Lyra slammed her hand on the table, and the lights dimmed. Enough. She said, silence. We don't have time for fear. There's only one way to prove the truth. She looked at Eli. We show them what really happened. Hours later, Lyra led Eli to the Starseer room, deep beneath Orlis Prime. Only the royal, line and bonded ones were allowed inside. The room was dark, with a high ceiling shaped like a dome of stars. At the center stood a silver platform with 3 glowing orbs. This is a truthcaster, Lyra explained. It shows memories directly to others. Real memories. No edits, no lies. Eli blinked. You want me to show them what I saw in the vault? She nodded. The original prophecy, the vision. Everything. And if they don't believe it, we fight. Eli stepped onto the platform. The orb floated in front of him. As soon as he touched it, golden light spread across the room. The ambassadors gathered, watching in silence. Then the vision appeared. The ancient human warrior, standing beside the woman who looked like Lyra, facing the great war, the flame. The gateway, the promise. I will return, in fire or in peace. The vision ended. Gasps filled the room. Some stared in wonder. Others whispered nervously. But not everyone was moved. The Xhakar ambassador stood. This is just a legend. A trick of light and emotion. A fairy tale. Eli stepped down. You've seen the truth. Believe it or not, this war isn't about me. House. Someone is using old lies to tear us apart. We should be asking who benefits if we fall. Lyra added. We need unity now, or everything we've built will be lost. It wasn't enough. Outside, the fleet moved closer. The Xhakar gave their final warning. Surrender by sunset or face destruction. That night, Eli stood on the observation deck watching the stars. He felt tired, not from battle, but from carrying the weight of something he didn't ask for. Lyra joined him, her face quiet. You were brave today, she said. I was desperate. She looked at him gently. You were true, returned. To her, do you really believe I'm the one from the prophecy? I don't know, she said honestly. But I believe in what I feel when I'm with you. He hesitated. And what do you feel? She looked into his eyes. Like I've been waiting a long time for you? His heart beat faster, but before he could reply, alarms screamed. A fleet was approaching. But it wasn't the Xhakar. It was a third force. Unknown, unmarked, and armed. They struck fast. Stealth ships, black and silent, dropped from the upper atmosphere and fired on the spire's outer defense rings. Explosions lit the sky. People screamed. The city shook. But these weren't Xhakar ships, and they weren't Perry either. Someone else had entered the game. Eli and Lyra ran to the command center. Chaos filled the air. Council guards rushed to protect the ambassadors. The main screen showed dozens of enemy ships swarming the city. Eli stared. Those are cloaked. No transponders. No signals. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Rogue fleet hidden for years. Someone's been planning this, Eli said. long before I got here." Just then, a blast rocked the tower. Eli was thrown. Off his feet, smoke filled the air. When he looked up, Lyra was down, wounded, blood on her forehead. Lyra ran to her, cradled her gently. She was breathing barely. "No," he whispered. "Stay with me." The pendant around his neck, the one she gave him, glowed suddenly, warm, alive. It pulsed once, then sent a shock through his body. Without thinking, he placed his hand on her chest. Over the wound, light exploded around them. The healing wave was instant. Her eyes snapped open. The wounds vanished. Everyone in the command center froze. They had seen it. Eli stood, panting, heart racing. He looked at his hand, then at Lyra. "What was that?" she asked. She stood slowly. "The artifact responded to you. It healed me. It chose." Whispers rose across the room. "The flame bonded," someone said. For the first time, the council looked at Eli not as an outsider, but as something more. The attack was repelled within the hour. The Matari ships fought back fiercely, aided by human tactical systems. The rogue fleet retreated, but damage was done. But so was something greater. Eli and Lyra stood before the council. Once more, this time, they didn't need to speak much. The others had seen the truth with their own eyes. Eli wasn't just a human diplomat anymore. He was the flame reborn, the one the ancient bond had called across time. Some still doubted. But many now believed peace was fragile, but it wasn't broken. Not yet. That night, Lyra stood on the balcony, staring at the stars. Eli walked up beside her, silent for a moment. "I didn't want to be a symbol," he said. "You didn't choose it," she replied. "But you lived it." He looked at her. "I don't know where this path leads," he said. "I don't know if I'm meant to lead fleets or write history books." Lyra smiled. "Maybe you're just meant to be human." He chuckled. "That I can do." They stood quietly together, shoulder to shoulder. Then, softly, Eli said, "I feel something when I'm with you." She turned to him. "So do I. I think it's more than fate." "I think so too." He looked into her eyes. "Not yet, not now, but someday soon," he would say the words, and she would say what she had waited lifetimes to say in return. Eli woke before the suns rose over Aurelus Prime. The city was quiet now, recovering after the sudden rogue fleet attack. Most of the damage was repaired, but the tension still hung in the air like smoke. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring. At the glowing pendant on the table, it's the same one that lit up when he touched Lyra, the one that healed her with light and fire. It wasn't just a gift anymore. It was a part of him. There was something inside him, something old. Something connected to this place, to Lyra, and to a prophecy that refused to stay in the past. He stood up and walked to the window. Below, the silver towers of the Matari capital shimmered in the early light. In the distance, ships patrolled the skies like silent guardians. A soft knock came at the door. It was Lyra. She looked different this morning, not just in her royal robes, but in her eyes. Stronger, clearer, but also tired. "May I come in?" she asked. "Always." She stepped inside, and they stood quietly for a moment. "I had a vision last night," she said finally. Eli raised an eyebrow. "Another one of those magical flame bond things?" Lyra smiled faintly. "What, this one wasn't from the past, it was from the future." He grew serious. "What did you see?" She took a deep breath. "A great fire. A gateway opening in space. And you, standing at its center. Your eyes were glowing like the sun, and behind you, an army. But not one of war. One of unity." Eli let her words settle in the room. "Sounds intense." She nodded. The Matari elders believed the flame-bonded one was not just a warrior, or a healer. He was a bridge. Between worlds. Between peoples. Eli sat down. "Then maybe that's why I'm here." She looked at him closely. "Are you ready to lead?" He didn't answer immediately. "No, but I'm ready to try." Later. That day, the council met again. The rogue fleet had left behind debris and some captured technology. It wasn't Jacker or Matari. It belonged to a secret group that had been hiding in the dark corners of the galaxy. The Eclipsed Core, an ancient order that believed in domination through silence, erasing history, hiding knowledge, and ruling from the shadows. The attack was meant to disrupt peace and trigger full war between the factions. "They're not done," Eli told the council. "This was just a test." One of the council members, a wise elder from the Silith race, looked at him. "What do you suggest, Flame Bonded?" The title still felt strange. Eli stood tall. "We unite. Not just with words and treaties. We build something real. A flame alliance bound by choice, not fear." Murmurs of agreement spread through the room. Even the Jakar ambassador, once cold and suspicious, now nodded slowly. "We would join such an alliance," he said, "if it is led by someone who sees all sides." Lyra smiled. Everyone turned. To Eli, he swallowed, then gave a firm nod. "Then let's build it. Together." In the following days, work began. Ambassadors shared knowledge and opened long-closed borders. Human ships arrived from Earth offering tech support and medical aid. Matari scientists started decoding ancient ruins linked to Elu's first vision, but the Eclipsed Core did not stay silent for long. Reports came in outposts vanishing without a trace, strange energy signatures near forgotten star systems, and whispers of something terrible being awakened. Lyra met with Eli in the Royal Observatory, where stars could be tracked in real time. She pointed to one dark region on the galactic map. "This system, Darnex 12, no one has entered it for centuries." "Why not?" he asked. "It's cursed. They say ships disappear. Signals die. The old legends call it the breach of flame." Eli's pendant began to glow faintly. He looked down. "It's reacting." Lyra stepped back in surprise. "The bond is calling you there. Then that's where I'm going." She grabbed his arm. Not alone. The Flame Alliance fleet was formed, a mix of Matari, human, Jakar, and Silith ships, together under one flag for the first time. In history, they called it Unity Squadron. At its center, Eli's ship, the Phoenix Star, co-piloted by Lyra. As they traveled through the stars toward the Darnex system, Eli felt a strange mix of calm and fire in his chest. Lyra stood beside him on the command. "Deck, he said. "For someone who once doubted me, you're awfully brave flying into a cursed star system." She smirked. "I didn't doubt you. I doubted the stars." "There's a difference. Do you still doubt them?" She looked at him. "Not anymore." They approached Darnex 12. The stars themselves seemed to vanish. It was like flying into a void. Light bent strangely. Space twisted. Suddenly alarms rang. "Energy spike," shouted the pilot. A massive black station appeared in the distance, floating like a dead god. It pulsed with red veins of energy. Giant tendrils of metal reached. Out from it, the Eclipsed Core had built something ancient. Something alive. A voice echoed through every ship. Deep and cold. "You are not the first flame. You will not be the last to burn." Eli's head throbbed. The pendant glowed white-hot. "We have to shut it down," Lyra said. "Now." Leela nodded. "We're going in." Inside the station, they moved quickly, Eli, Lyra, a small team of warriors and scientists. The halls were filled with strange writing, half-organic tech, and dark energy pulses. The pendant led the way, glowing, brighter with each step. At the center of the station, they found it a gateway. Just like in the ancient vision, but twisted, corrupted. A figure stood before it cloaked in shadows. With a face half human, half machine. "I knew you'd come," it said. "Who are you?" Eli demanded. The figure pulled back its hood. It looked just like him, but older, scarred, hollow. "I am what you become if you fail." Eli stepped back. "That's not possible. This is what happens when the flame forgets love. When unity becomes control." The figure raised a hand and the gateway flared open. Dark energy spilled out. Eli felt pain. "Memory, fire," Lyra cried out. "Eli, don't listen. That's not your path." He turned to her, and everything became clear. The bond wasn't just fire, it was love. He reached into the pendant, and pulled its light into his chest. The figure screamed. "No!" Eli shouted. "I choose peace!" He slammed the light into the gateway. It exploded in a wave of gold and white. The entire station began to collapse. "Run!" Lyra shouted. They barely made it back to the ship before the whole system lit up in fire. The station was gone. The darkness ended. The flame had chosen, not destruction, but unity. Back on Orlis Prime, the people celebrated. The Flame Alliance stood stronger than ever. Eli was hailed as a hero, not just of Earth, but of the stars. But that night on the royal balcony, Eli only cared about one thing. Lyra, they stood together, bathed in the silver light of twin moons. He took her hand. "I have something to say," he whispered. She looked at him, already smiling. "I love you." "Full of light," finally, she said, and kissed him. The stars above Oralis's prime glowed brighter than ever before. A great celebration was held. Music from across the galaxy filled the skies. Every species in the Flame Alliance sent gifts, messages, and envoys to honor the hero who brought peace and to honor the bond that saved them all. That hero was Eli. But Eli never saw himself that way. He stood quietly on the balcony of the royal tower, his eyes on the stars. In his hand he held the glowing pendant, still pulsed with warm light, though softer now. It no longer burned. It no longer screamed. It simply lived. "Thinking again?" Lyra asked, stepping beside him. She wore a long white gown with golden patterns that shimmered like flame, always. Eli replied, giving her a small smile. She leaned against him. "The galaxy is safe. For now." He nodded. For now. There was peace, but peace never lasted forever. Deep in space, new powers always rose, ambitions grew, fear returned. But something had changed. The Flame Alliance had become real. The prophecy had been fulfilled, and Eli and Lyra had become more than just rulers. They had become symbols of what could be. In the following weeks, the alliance grew stronger. New trade routes were opened. Ancient war zones became peace gardens. Scholars and scientists from different worlds worked together to unlock mysteries older than time. Eli was asked to speak at the Great Unity Assembly, the largest gathering of galactic leaders in history. He stood at the center of a circular hall filled with thousands of beings, tall, short, glowing, scaled, even floating. All different, all watching him. He took a breath. "I come from a small blue world. Earth. We have oceans, cities, rain, and a long history of fighting each other. But we also have hope, and stories, and love." He looked around the room. Some thought I was chosen by fate. Some thought I was a mistake. The truth is, I was just a man who saw people hurting and wanted it to stop. He placed his hand over his heart. "You don't need fire in your blood to be brave. You don't need a crown to lead. You need kindness, courage, and someone to believe in." He looked at Lyra, sitting proudly in the front row. I had that, and I gave it back. Long silence followed. Then applause, loud, roaring, echoing across the hall and into the stars. But peace does not sleep. Late one night, an urgent message came through. A black hole, silent and still for centuries, had begun to spin again. But not just spin. It was pulling in light, energy, time itself. And worse, the remnants of the eclipsed core were seen near its edge. Eli stood before the council. "They're trying to open something. Something we weren't meant to touch." Lyra's expression was serious. "Do we stop them?" Eli nodded. "We have to." And so, for one final mission, the Phoenix Star rose again. At the edge of known space, the black hole spun like a hungry god. Ships from every Flame Alliance species joined the fleet. They saw it as a test, the final challenge before peace could last forever. The core's remaining forces were all ready. They're trying to activate ancient machines around the black hole. Machines meant to rip space apart and give birth to a new kind of power, power beyond control. Eli, Lyra, and a small team boarded the central machine. Inside, time moved strangely. Voices whispered, walls shifted, shadows walked beside them. They reached the core, and there they found a single being, tall, made of metal and smoke, a face made from dozens of others, a voice that echoed like thunder. I am the last shadow. Now, the memory of domination, and I will not end. Lee stepped forward. You had your time. It ended with fire and light. The shadow laughed. You think your flame is enough? Eli held the pendant high. No, but our bond is. He reached for Lyra's hand. Together they stepped forward. The pendant lit up, burning with pure golden light. The shadow screamed. The machines began to break. The black hole pulsed and screamed like a wounded star. Time shook in that moment. Eli saw everything past, future, all the versions of himself, all the lives that led to this one. He saw the first. Flame-bonded one, the warrior who had once fallen in battle beside a princess. He saw the version of himself who had become corrupted, as he had once seen in the rogue station, and he saw this moment right now where choice mattered more than destiny. I'm not here to burn the galaxy, he said. I'm here to light the way. He let go of fear, let go of doubt, and let the flame inside him burn bright. The light shot through the station, through the black hole. Across space, the shadow vanished. The machines melted, and silence returned. They awoke on the Phoenix Star. Lyra sat beside Eli holding his hand. Are we alive? He asked. She smiled. Yes, and the stars are still shining. He looked out the window. The black hole was gone. In its place, a bright star was born, a new beginning. Months passed. Aurelus Prime became the capital of the new alliance. Schools, centers of peace, and monuments were built across its shining towers. One statue stood taller than the rest, Eli and Lyra standing side by side, holding the flame between them. Eli took on a new title, the Flame Keeper, not a king, not a god, just someone who watched over the fire of unity and kept it from going out. And Lyra, she ruled with wisdom and love. But she always made time for Eli, for long walks under the stars, for quiet mornings, for dancing when no one watched. They were two people who had found each other across the stars, not because of fate, but because of choice. One evening, on the balcony where it had all begun, Eli stood once more. Lyra joined him, just as before. Do you remember the first thing I ever said to you? Eli asked. She laughed. You insulted our translator bots. He smiled. I was nervous. You were charming. I looked at her. I said I loved you. She took his hand, and I said finally. They stood there as the stars watched. The galaxy was wide. Full of danger, full of mystery, but also full of love, and that more than anything was the flame that would never go out.